accident, you need a lawyer, and you deserve an advocate. Because every accident has a ripple effect. It affects your time, your health, your ability to make money, everything. That's where the advocates can help. Speaking with an attorney is simple and 100% free. We're available 24/7 for your convenience, and we'll take on the claims process so you can rest easy. Because you're not just a client to us, you're a person, and you deserve the best help you can get. You deserve an advocate.
This is the Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find the Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, the Monty Show on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Thanks for being here. Genuinely, we could not do what we do without you. As always, the Monty Show presented by The Advocates at theadvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business, where you never pay out of pocket. You never reach into your pocket. You never scratch a check. No. The Advocates understand that when you've been in an accident, you get hurt at work, you get hit by a distracted driver who rear-ends you. Yeah, man, that's one of the worst days of your life. You get hit on top of the head with a golf ball by some jackwagon on the course. It's one of the worst days of your life. That's why you don't need to be worried about how you're going to pay for an attorney. No, you need somebody to fight for you while you get back to the best version of yourself. That's why you can go to theadvocates.com right now and talk to one of the best injury attorneys on the planet 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. Boy, what a day yesterday on the show. And I think the number one question we were asked yesterday is the University of Utah looking to leave the Big 12 conference? And I understand why people are asking that question, but I'm here to tell you it's absolutely a ridiculous notion. I have talked to a lot of people about this situation, both in and around the Big 12 conference, close to the Utah Athletic Department, and nobody has said to me or indicated or even taken it seriously the question of, does the University of Utah want to withdraw from the Big 12 conference? And I understand what Mark Harlan did and how Mark Harlan conducted himself, screaming at an official, drawing an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty while the game was going on, then berating the official the other night, telling him, quote, "This is why we fired you in the Pac-12." Allegedly, that's what he said. And then ripping the Big 12 after the game. Absolutely the wrong decision. But in no way, shape, or form do those actions say that the University of Utah wants to withdraw from the Big 12 conference. In no way, shape, or form, not close, has anybody I have spoken to in any corner of this conference, including at the University of Utah, hinted, gotten close to, and again, it was laughed off by my sources yesterday. There was a lot of emotion on the line. But, Jake, I still don't think that makes it right what Mark Harlan did on Saturday night.
No, and I think, in the coming days, like, it's going to be dealt with. And I think, again, as we talked about yesterday, the damage you did to your reputation is now, coming to the, center stage, if you will. I mean, we're now kind of talking about all these rumors and all this nonsense about your school leaving the Big 12 conference because you said that, you are not happy that you're a part of this conference. And, and that's the hard part with the, doing the apology, putting out that statement on paper and not doing a video-based statement. Because ultimately, if you would just met with the media again, put something on video and put it out, whatever you want to do. You could have easily come out and said, like, hey, we're committed to the Big 12. Like, we're really, we're passionate about making sure that we represent the conference properly. Like, however you wanted to word it, like, it would have been better to come out on video and basically share those feelings. And, obviously apologize and make that right, but then go out of your way to say that you're committed to the conference. And I just think that, this perception issue and this reputation issue for Utah is now going to, be something that chases them for a while. I think people are not going to let this go. People are not going to forget about it. You're not all of a sudden just going to be liked again. Like that's the issue. And I think this is something we've seen in a lot of different areas of life lately, in our country, if you will, like not only in college football, but like when you lose, like how you handle losing is really important. And I think that doing that, like, obviously did not represent the conference well, number one, the school well, number two, and Mark Harlan as a professional, number three. And so now we have to put YouTube titles up and do shows about whether you're leaving the Big 12 or not, because you said you were disgusted by officiating and not happy to be in the Big 12. And, y'all know what he said. So it's really unfortunate. And it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes we roll up to the show and we're like, yeah, what are we talking about today? Well, today we got to talk about whether you're leaving the Big 12 or not because of your tirade yesterday. And that's unfortunate. I wish we didn't have to talk about that.
Yeah. And I understand the hyperbole from BYU fans and Big 12 fans. Is Utah right now the most hated brand in this conference?
Yeah, right now they are.
I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, it's not even close. I mean,
because I think most people in the Big 12 don't hate each other. Now that Texas is gone, there really wasn't an antagonist until right now. I think Utah, especially with what Mark Harlan did, and I agree 100%, as I said on the show yesterday. I think the only solution and the only course of action was for Mark Harlan to, and he can still do it and save face. He's got to get on TV and he's got to issue a mea culpa. It's the only way to save yourself. You disrespected so many people, including the media, who you took advantage of with your little tantrum. In my opinion, the only way to unwind that watch is to either do the exact same thing, sit down in front of the media, have a press conference, and take questions about it. You need to be questioned about your actions. Mm-hmm. We need to know why you thought it was appropriate to be on the field. We need to know why you thought it was appropriate to taunt an official. We need to know why you thought it was appropriate to sit up on that dais and call out the integrity and the ethics of the Big 12 conference.
Yeah, because the problem now is, like, now that there's some time has passed, I know it's only been a day or whatever, but that's enough time for the masses to go back through the game and really look at that play and say, like, yeah, you know what, like, from every angle it is holding. And I know that we have former NFL officials saying that that shouldn't necessarily been called then, but the reality is, like, by the book, it's holding. And they did call it, and you did commit the penalty. And the problem is on top of that, you have a situation where, we've got all kinds of resources and camera angles and, still shots of, like, you being on the field while the play is going on. We've got still shots of, obviously, you being on national TV berating the official. Like, so the problem is that as time goes on, the apology that you would put out doesn't stand up to the wind, if you will, because there's this mountain of, hey, you were on the field during a play. You were then on the field during, berating the official, then the locker room, then the media. Like, it just, when you talk about is Utah leaving the Big 12 and you talk about their reputation, this is the issue. Like, it's hard for me to say this, honestly. It's painful, but, like, it doesn't seem like they're taking seriously enough, like, their reputation and, how they go about representing
their
the
responsibility to be good partners in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And I have told you for days and weeks now, I have a lot of respect for Mark Harlan. I lost a lot of that respect with his antics on Saturday night. And now that you see the reverse angles, we were watching and I don't know I can't remember what channel it was on, but it was a copyrighted video that I wanted to show you, but we can't play it.
Yeah.
You can see in 4K. I mean, the entire shoulder pad of JoJo Phillips is exposed.
Yeah.
That's how much of a hold it was.
Like, you can see his entire hand in his jersey holding him.
And again, guys like Joel Klatt, who came out yesterday and said it's not whether it was a penalty or not, it was an inconsistent call. It doesn't matter. Consistency matters in the post-game, post-mortem of a game. In a game-winning situation, you have to blow that whistle. He gave you no choice.
Yeah.
Man, like, whether you called it all game does not matter. And my biggest struggle is that Utah wants to make excuses instead of owning up to the fact that you got soundly beat in the second half of that football game.
Yeah.
And I understand that you're not happy with the officiating sucks across all levels of football right now.
Yeah, it's not new.
This is, and we talked about this on the show yesterday. I think it was Mike Smith who said that officiating has sucked all season long in the NFL and college. I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's been one of the worst years.
Yeah.
That doesn't excuse, even if this was a totally blown phantom call that never happened, you should not be on the field. You should not be taunting the official. You should not be doing a press conference calling out the ethics and integrity of the officiating in the Big 12 conference. Nothing that happened on the field it absolves Mark Harlan of his actions. Nothing. That's the biggest problem here. And the headline of the show today is, does the University of Utah want to withdraw from the Big 12? They do not. They don't. And I addressed it yesterday. I'll address it again today because it's pervasive in our comment section. A Utah fan saying that they tried to go to the ACC. Utah never tried to go to the ACC.
Right. Yeah.
They never had serious conversations. I have confirmed that 100 times. I'll say it again. Utah has done nothing but shown respect and appreciation for the Big 12 right up until Mark Harlan behaved like a child on Saturday night. That's when it all changed. And my point is, Mark Harlan has to make this right.
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind for me is you have to be proactive about making this right. It can't just be, if we get nothing out of them and they try to take the approach of let time pass, silence heals all wounds type deal. I'm just telling you, like, from my perspective, where I'm sitting on this, like, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that people are just going to forget about it. I mean, think about other, Big 12 happenings. Like, nobody forgot about, like, Oklahoma State's performance in the Big 12 championship game. Like,
that's right.
Like, people didn't forget, like what Deion did last year, and what's happening this year. Like, people don't just forget these things. And I think, from a football culture standpoint, like, if this was like Utah versus TCU, it wouldn't be as big a deal. Like, no. People wouldn't care about...
Mark Harlan wouldn't have been on the field if it was TCU.
Yeah, but because it was the Holy War and it was BYU and it was at Rice Eccles, that's why this happened. And I wish Mark would come out and say, like, just be honest, dude. Come out and say, yeah, you know what? Like, I was on the sideline for that game. It was the Holy War. It was our biggest game of the year, especially when you consider how our season went. And yeah, I was pissed. Yeah, I was upset. I got caught up in the emotions of the moment. I should not have been on the field. I should not have treated the official that way. I should not have gone to the media. With all due respect to you guys, I should not have made that statement in the way that I did. There are better ways and more professional ways to handle that. And I want to apologize to the commissioner's office for putting them and the commissioner himself in that position where he's got to sanction me, even if it is only $40,000. That's just totally unprofessional. And if you do that, then we can move on. But again, I just don't think that, again, I hate saying this, but to me, it doesn't seem like you take that seriously enough.
It doesn't.
It doesn't seem like you guys think that it's a big deal or a problem or something that you need to do. And I'm just telling you, it's Tuesday. If we hear nothing by Friday, we're going to have another conversation.
Well, I was told yesterday that the University of Utah, they had their conversations about it, and now they are going to move on. Well, that it's over for them.
That's a mistake, bro.
I think it is a mistake. I think Mark Harlan has to do an interview and issue an apology. And because what he did yesterday, I don't know if we still have his statement or not.
Yeah, it's in there.
But I go back to what Mark Harlan issued. This is not an apology. This right here is not an apology. Sorry, man. It is, in my opinion, this is I did what I did, and here's why I did it. That's what this is. There is no apology here. This essentially is, I made those comments. I made those comments because I was in the locker room and, hey, sorry about that, Big 12, but not really sorry.
Yeah. We're
just going to call this an apology, right? And you can talk about how you're a proud member of the Big 12 and, we look forward to working with our peers and enhance the league. And, get out of here.
But nobody wants to work with you guys. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the issue. You did this. And so now, like, again, the title of the show is, does Utah want to leave the Big 12? Well, Monty, Why would anybody be asking that question? Well, Mark, the reason everyone's asking that question is because of what you said. And then, again, with all due respect, the lack of sincerity and the lack of like, hey, I messed this up in the statement. Because I'm not calling it an apology. I'm done calling it an apology.
Yeah, it's a statement.
It's a statement, bro. You called it a statement, like them on the piece of paper called it a statement. Notice it doesn't say apology, or it says, hey, statement from Utah Director of Athletics, Mark Harlan. So it's a statement. It's not an apology. And you said, I accept the consequences for my action. Right. But do you accept the responsibility you have to fix it? No,
I don't think he feels like it's a problem. I don't think he feels like it's a problem, because I think if he thought it was a problem, they'd Taylor Randall and I would have thought Taylor Randall and Mark Harlan, or Mark Harlan and Kyle Whittingham, would have met with the media yesterday and say, hey, look, there were a lot of emotions. Because if you'd have sat with the media yesterday and say, you know what, I was running hot. We've lost 5 in a row. It's BYU. It's a huge game for us.
We felt like we had them in their own end zone, 4th and 10 with 1:20 to go, and then we lost the game.
And I would have thought that Mark Harlan would have said, I was emotional. My temperature was running hot. And then Kyle Whittingham would have said, we just didn't do enough to win that game. I have a lot of respect for Kalani Sitake and his players. Like, I thought that's how it would have gone.
Yeah.
Instead, we got nothing. And I don't think you're going to get anything. I think that Mark Harlan, Taylor Randall, Kyle Whittingham will be asked about it because he is the public face of that university. Whether you want him to be or not, he is. But I really don't have a problem with Mark Harlan running a hot temperature. I really don't. I have a problem with you being on the field, you taunting an official, and then ripping the league and questioning the ethics and integrity of the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you went too far. You being upset, I don't have a problem with that. If Mark Harlan was not emotional and upset after losing to BYU, whether they had lost the previous 4 or not, I would have a problem with it. It's how you handle it. And then, okay, we made a mistake. Note my words. I didn't say, hey, there was an incident. I made a mistake. We made a mistake. And what did you do? You only compounded that mistake. You made the problem worse. And I do think, and I'm not trying to be a red-ass Utah fan, and I know we're already infamous for hating the Pac-12 and being an SEC show and stuff.
And a Mountain West show,
And a Mountain West show.
Yeah,
But I do believe that Utah is the most disliked football team in this conference.
Yeah, and I think after this weekend, the Big 12 doesn't have a premier brand anymore.
And now the truth be told, the premier brand in this league is now Coach Prime. I think that's the biggest name in this league. And BYU fan, please, again, I get it. You don't have to like it. I think Deion Sanders in Colorado is number 1, and I think BYU is the number 2 brand in the league right now.
Notice he's not saying Colorado is the best team.
No, not at all.
Like, let's not confuse this. Let's not turn this into, well, Monty.
It's conflate, please.
Yeah, let's not conflate and pontificate and
exacerbate
and, do whatever we do and bait and Kate and all this other stuff. Let's be really clear. The brand that Coach Prime has built is now growing and getting to a place where it's leading the Big 12 because Utah did what they did, right? It's getting to a place because BYU nationally is not given enough respect for the season it's put down, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to do with BYU. It's just the reality of the situation. And so, again, if we get Colorado and BYU in the Big 12 championship game in Jarrah World where it's always sunny, and Colorado wins that game, now you're talking about Colorado being,
it's always sunny in Dallas.
Yeah. You're talking about Colorado being the biggest brand in the Big 12 in a time where people are asking, hey, is it the ACC or the Big 12 as the 4th, conference on the totem pole?
Well, and then I think there's this question right here, because I heard this a lot too, that BYU drove Kyle Whittingham into retirement. Again, just because I was speaking to some folks close to Utah football, there has been no talk about him retiring. And I really doubt he retired.
Well, and look at how we talked about Cam earlier this week, Cam Rising. And I know I'm tired of talking about Cam too, but I think it's a good example of where Witt's at with things. Witt came out and said, yeah, he had surgery, so now we're able to talk about what he wants to do moving forward. Like, we're not getting like, yeah, Morgan's going to take care of that. Or, that like he's not deferring. He's saying, hey, we're going to have these conversations. Hey, I liked what I saw out of Brandon Rose. Hey, like he's clearly in it. And I think the best point you made yesterday was when he threw the chair when he pushed that chair over after his press conference. Like, that's not a guy who's retiring.
That's
dude.
not a guy walking down the off ramp.
Yeah, I mean, guys who are looking to retire are like, yeah, we didn't do enough to win the game. It is what it is. See you next week.
And I still think he's the best coach in the conference, bar none.
Yeah,
I think Kyle Whittingham is the best football coach in this Well, Neil Brown at West Virginia.
Right.
Okay, so Kyle's the best coach in the league.
Right. Yeah.
He's no Mike Gundy, but he's the best coach in this league.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Kyle's got the best defense in this league. I think he is the best coach in this league. And I don't think he's ready to walk away.
And
that chair flip
part,
or whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
that's not a guy walking down the off ramp.
And that's the real shame in all the Mark Harlan stuff for me is that we're sitting here talking about a program that even in the golden era of the Pac-12, before it melted down and all that, when we had that great West Coast conference, Utah, depending on who you asked, was still, this brand that people didn't give enough credit to, but was constantly overachieving and, competing to win that conference. So Utah, this isn't new for Utah, where people, don't like Utah and like are kind of, just not
100%.
Like it was always Oregon and Washington and SC, and then Utah was kind of the ugly stepchild, getting into the party. And so I look at this whole situation. I just say, like, dude, like Mark, like, have some appreciation for where the football program is at as well, because this guy, Kyle Whittingham, is not coaching forever. My guess is it's probably 3 more seasons. I think
it's not that long. I think it's season to season right now. Honestly, I think if they had won the conference and they had gone on to the college football playoff and had they won a college football game, I think he's gone.
Yeah, but the problem is now it doesn't. They're not good enough at NIL to go season by season. He can't. That you're not prolific enough in the portal to do what Prime did.
Yeah, wait a minute. How about this Oregon State thing yesterday?
Yeah, bro.
This is example, you guys want to get
exactly what I'm talking about.
You want to get crazy? You want to hear something that is, and you guys tell me if I'm making too much out of this. Trent Bray, who I think's done a pretty damn solid job at Oregon State.
Yeah.
All things being considered. Trent Bray yesterday. Somehow, and I didn't listen to the whole press conference. Forgive me for that. But Trent Bray got into a conversation about how much money does Oregon State have in NIL right now? How much? What is their war chest like? How much money are they spending? Put that number in your head right now. Just say to yourself, how much money is Oregon State, Pac-12, G5 University? How much money do you think Oregon State is spending in NIL?
I don't. I mean, it's always a product and demand thing, right? What are some of the schools that are going to come after our players, going to offer them to try to get them in the portal? So you're always looking at that, and the collective and everyone's done a good job of continuing to raise the bar that way. But as far as an exact number, I couldn't give.
Well,
it to you,
just an estimate. I mean, millions and millions, or do you?
It's in the millions, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bro.
It's in the millions at Oregon State. And I play that clip, and I want you to think about that, because we're talking about Kyle Whittingham and Utah, who by any measure have been terrible at NIL.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really difficult
outside of got the truck deal, and that was it.
Yeah, outside of like a splash, like every player getting a truck. I mean, you had several years ago players starting the collective and ramping up their NIL program. Like when we had Brant Keithy and others out at our Big 5-0 birthday bash 2 years ago, like they had nothing NIL going. We paid them NIL money to come out, and Max Tooley was there. Like it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And they had nothing NIL going. We didn't go to an NIL manager. I talked to Brant Keithy. I called Brant Keithy on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, hey, dude, I want you to come to this, drop a puck at center ice. Like, here's an envelope. Here's some cash. Like, Oregon State's in the millions.
Mhm.
Is Utah in the millions? I would hope so.
Well,
I think it's a different world over there. We saw that.
yeah, I mean,
The Crimson Club and
I take that to mean that, Oregon State, when he goes, yeah, we're in the millions. I would take that to mean 5 to 10 million. I think
has to mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think
because he didn't say 10 million.
Yeah, he didn't say tens of millions.
It's
he said
in the millions.
Yeah, so like I would take that to mean like somewhere between 5 to 10 million, but less than 10.
Yeah.
Like somewhere in that range.
Certainly.
And I think for a school like Utah, and this is kind of why I wanted to play this clip today, is because when you talk about Utah leaving the Big 12, when you talk about like where the school is at itself and like where the Big 12 is at, it's no secret. Obviously, you guys are well aware of this, that most of the schools in the Big 12 are not good at portaling. You're not good at NILing. And the crazy thing is everyone hates on Deion. Everyone says, oh, well, Deion flipped over his roster and he doesn't like his kids and it's all about Louis and it's like,
well,
no,
his
dude,
kid's
actually,
making $6.2 million a year in NIL.
Yeah. And so the point is that again, this word reputation is just coming true today.
Is it reputation or a stigma?
Well, for Utah, it's a stigma. It's a stigma. And I think
Hundo
for
P.
Colorado, it's a reputation.
Hundo P.
At Utah, the stigma is, hey, and again, I love Whit, highly respect him, no issue with his behavior over the weekend. Like, totally with you, dude. But the reality is the stigma about Utah is you're not an offensive factor. You've put some backs in the league, put some offensive linemen in the league, a receiver once every blue moon, but you're not quarterback. You're not like, you go to Utah as a DB, get to the league, and that's cool.
I think stigma reputation's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because think about your favorite university, right? I mean, we have West Virginia on the show, Oak State regularly, tons of Texas Longhorn fans. Texas Tech fans, Miami, University of Miami, the Canes. We have a ton of Miami. Like, we have people all across the country. Is your football team's reputation the football team or the head coach? Is your football team a stigma or a reputation? At Colorado, their reputation is Deion Sanders. At Utah, their reputation is
defense,
and their stigma is that they don't do NIL and they don't do quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Let that marinate in your nether regions, right? And ask yourself, hey, I am a Notre Dame fan. Stigma or reputation? Well, we do quarterbacks really well. We do defense really well, but we haven't done NIL very well at all. We have not done it. Notre Dame's another university. Who's the lead? I don't know either.
Yeah, I mean, I think Notre Dame's reputation is, typically, just to, like, from a big picture view, Notre Dame's reputation is, hey, you're going to compete to get in the college football playoff most years. Your offense is typically going to be subpar, and you can't win the big game. Don't care who the head coach is, can't win the big game. That's the stigma, and your reputation is that you obviously have this incredible campus. You have the stadium itself is incredible, and it's an iconic brand. You like, that's a school where you're like, yeah, dude, like, I'm going there, even if we're mediocre, I'm going there to experience it.
Yep.
And that's your reputation. But the stigma, I would agree, is don't win big games. Not great in NIL. Like, that's the problem. And when I look at Utah specifically, I sit here and I say, hey, man, like, again, is Mark Harlan and company considering, like, hey, it's not just the commissioner that has an issue with us now. It's recruits. It's potential boosters that are not already supporting the program. It's, I'm telling you, this type of behavior has unintended consequences that Mark Harlan isn't even thinking about, with all due respect to him, right? Like, consequences that I think are immeasurable until time passes. Like 3 years from now, do we get a recruit who's like, yeah, I remember like how they handled the Holy War, and I just didn't love that. Does that happen? I don't know, but I'm telling you, there's risks there.
Well, just looking at the NIL rankings for players, bro, Shador number 1 at 6.2. Livy Dunn at LSU And if I have to tell you who that is, you are not doing it 21 times a month. $4 million. Travis Hunter, 3.4. Arch Manning, who only has 370,000 followers on social, 3.1. Cooper Flagg, in the pooper for Cooper, 2.6. Jalen Milroe, 2.2. AJ DeBansta, the BYU basketball recruit, 2.2 million. Cam Ward, 2.1 million. Quinn Ewers, 2.1 million. Mark Sears, the basketball player at Alabama, 2.1 million. You realize, like, dudes, these are Dylan Gabriel, 2 million. It is remarkable to me how many of these guys are getting tons of money. And none of them, like, you look at Colorado, here's my question, and this is why I bring it up. If you look at Colorado, how much money is going out of this conference after this football season? Bro.
Dude, what's the question?
And before we get to your comments, because I think this is a big deal. They went to Lubbock and dominated.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State fired everybody. And Deion Sanders to Tallahassee's gaining momentum.
Well, Monty, what do you mean it's gaining momentum?
No Monty's. Now, I know that I'm just, what am I, fat old Mormon and dying?
Can you put the banner up from yesterday, just real quick? Would you do?
I got rid of it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
I was going to do an I Told You So Tuesday banner, but I thought that would be too... Because you guys know, humble little Monty.
Yeah, little old Monty.
Little old Monty.
The Marty program.
So humble and stuff.
Yeah,
But I've been telling you guys for weeks and weeks that Deion Sanders to Florida State has legs to it.
Yes.
And now people are writing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shedeur and Travis are going to graduate.
We have the ingredients to make the cake. Those two dudes are graduating.
Bro, the ingredients to make the cake? The flipping oven is on, dude.
Yeah, dude. Like we're
pans are greased.
Yeah, well, Monty, we're getting ready to put this thing in the oven.
The pans are greased. Hell, how about this? They're making the icing, dude.
Bro, if Colorado wins the Big 12, does that mean it's you can book it that he's going to Florida State?
Can you, if Colorado wins the Big 12? Stop. I just don't even know what else you say. If Colorado wins the Big 12.
By the way, if the Big 12 loses Deion Sanders and all the momentum there, at what point do we start talking about the long-term viability?
But what was Stupid A. Smith talking about yesterday?
I'm sorry. Stupid A. Smith?
Oh, did I mispronounce his name? What was Screaming A. Smith talking about yesterday? He's hearing that Shedeur and Deion are a package deal for the Dallas Cowboys. Get out of here. Yeah. No, they're not.
Why, dude?
Like, it's stuff like that. And again, I ask.
I just don't think Deion's ready to go to the NFL yet. I think that Deion's having huge success at the college level.
And how many times has he said he doesn't want to coach in the NFL? Like, he's gone out of his way to say that.
And again, it's this dynamic. And this was the point we made with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, right? Those guys, there are certain guys in college football who have the ability to say, hey, I've been a winner everywhere I've gone. Right. So, like, as a player, I was a winner. Jackson State, now Colorado. Like, I've shown you that I can take you from bad and turn it into good. Now, is that national championships? No. But I think that's, people always want to go right to that. And I think it just lacks all context. Like, understanding the success he's built and why that would be attractive to Florida State and why for Deion. And everyone wants to make it about, like, oh, it's a homecoming. I actually don't think that that's even a huge part of it.
And again, what's on ESPN right now? Before I slap you in the face for something you just said, what is on ESPN right now? Should the Cowboys pursue Deion Sanders as their next head coach?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we had an unspoken agreement amongst men that Jim Harbaugh's name was never, ever supposed to be brought up on this show again. So Jim Harbaugh...
Donnie, you're out of your element.
Exactly. Jim Harbaugh goes on Pat McAfee yesterday. Admittedly, I turned it off. Because I have Pat McAfee on in the background while I'm working. And admittedly, I turned it off. I hate Jim Harbaugh. I hate his face. Like his face is very punchable.
It is. It is.
Turtle. All right, let's get to your comments. Comment section on the Monty Show. Why am I such a red ass? I don't understand it. Well, I do. It's who I am as a sports fan because I have no. Yeah, Google me. I have no joy in sports. Did you guys see the story today that Juan Soto's meeting with the Toronto Blue Jays tomorrow?
Yeah. Dude would rather leave the country than play for the Cubs, bro. Come on.
Okay, and then you got to go there, and then you have to go there. You chipping. Okay. The comment section, as always, is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy app in the business. I would like to tell you I won last night. That's not true. I am on an absolute cold streak.
Did you have LeBron-y, bricklayer James?
LeBronto?
Yeah.
In fact, I did. And here's what I had in the NBA last night. I actually did win 2 or 3 on a flex play on Monday Night Football. Thank you to Tua Tagovailoa for throwing an interception. He was half an interception. He came through for me. And then Tyreek Hill last night having that touchdown saved my bacon because I had him scoring a touchdown. And then, of course, because I'm a masochist, which means I am in love with myself 21 times a month. I don't know why I just could not take Puka Nacua because Puka Nacua was 60-something and a half yards.
Yeah.
It's like he's going to score a touchdown. It's Miami's. No, he didn't. So I won 2 or 3 last night. I won $7. And I would just like to say,
nice job, dude.
I gave that $7 away because Donovan, you hate Rudy Gobert Mitchell last night on the best team in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I had Donovan Mitchell at 44.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Yeah.
He had 46. Thank you. And listen, as I go through my my picks last night, here's where I got into trouble. And I deserve this because
you accept the consequences for your decisions.
I don't. I'm Mark Harlan. Who are you? My biggest issue was I had Alperen Sengun having a bad night last night. Sengun last night, I had him at 23 points, rebounds, and assists. Or points last night, 23 points. I had less. He had 27. And I would like to apologize to all of my Houstonians. And then I would just like to say, listen, I am not a Victor Wembanyama fan.
I swear to God, if you took him. We've talked about this, dude. You want to talk about unspoken agreements?
48.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Victor's the way.
More or less. Would you have taken more or less?
I wouldn't have taken it.
I took less.
And he had more.
He had 54.
I'm
just going to go ahead and...
Promo code Monty. Sign up. Let's go.
I'm a big believer in karma. If you're betting against people's success, you're going to lose. Don't bet against people's success. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y Monty. Open a new Prize Picks account. And you deposit $5, they'll instantly give you 50 more. You can play the entirety of the football season, let alone the rest of it, on that. And tonight, I think there are several gimmies tonight. Joel Embiid, 39 points, rebounds, and assists against the Knicks. He's coming back to prove a point. You got to take more on that. I think that Jason Tatum has been one of the most consistent scorers in the NBA. 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And then my guy, Ant Edwards, 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists. You're taking more on all of those. $5 flex play. That means you only got to get 2 or 3 of those right. You're welcome. Buy me donuts tomorrow.
Yeah.
There endeth the lesson on Prize Picks. Download the app, Prize Picks, in your favorite app store. Join the tens of millions of those who play, and I'm getting back on the heater tonight. I had won, I think it was 9 straight plays I had won on Prize Picks.
Yeah.
And I've lost, I think, 3 in a row now. I haven't had a 3 for 3 in. You know how you get super hot, like you're just every 3 balls going in.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden, instead of 100%, you're at like 80%. That 80% goes to 60%. Then all of a sudden, you're Steph Curry and you can't find water from a boat.
Right.
So right now, I'm water from a boat. But I can swim. I'm telling you, we're winning tonight, and we're winning big. All right, who's first one in this morning? Let's see. The real Pete Forte, a member of the program for 12 months. Pete, appreciate you. Harry Austin, our favorite San Antonian. Hey, next time you see Victor, could you just let him know that he needs to go under the number for me? Thanks. Harry, a member for 15 months. I would argue Colorado is also disliked in the Big 12, but wonder if it's more jealous of what Coach Prime brings. I think that's spot on here.
I think it's an easy button to hate on him too.
I agree.
You know, I think it's the Colorado situation and dislike is totally different from the Utah situation.
I think it's jealousy. It's not hate. I think people genuinely hate Utah.
Yeah.
Who are you, Max Hall?
Yeah.
I think people genuinely, if you haven't seen it, Google search Max Hall, Utah.
Google me.
It's one of the greatest things you'll ever see. Tay Kim, hello, for $5. Can we please discuss something else besides the bottom dwellers in the Big 12?
Okay. What would you like to discuss?
Well, can BYU run the table? Because I think this is a huge question mark. I still think right now today, I think BYU is being disrespected. I think there is not an appreciation. I think 9 out of 10 football fans have no idea who the BYU is. I think 9 out of 10 people have never heard of Jake Retzloff. I think 9 out of 10 people have no idea how dynamic the offense is. And frankly, 9 out of 10 people don't care. I think they write off the Big 12 because this is the SEC and this is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Big 10. This is who we are. We're the Mountain West. We got screwed by the Pac-12. Nobody cares about the Big 12. I think that's the reality of where football fans live. And I think in the national media, I think most people now, because of the Holy War, have seen Jake Retzloff and why he is so dynamic. And I think they're being disrespected. Can BYU football run the table? Yes, they can. I still think the percentage play says you're not going to go undefeated in the regular season. And I think that if you are BYU, you are very happy that you have Kansas in between Utah and Arizona State. Because I think that if you are going to Tempe this weekend, I think this would have been the ultimate letdown trap game. Scatabo will punch you in the face if he plays.
Yeah.
But I think Kansas on the road is a completely different ball club than they are at Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you look at Kansas, who is 3-6 and 2-4 in conference. Now they've also won 2 out of their last 3. And probably should have won 3 out of their last 3 because they should have won that K-State game. Fat ass catches that interception. Too much. Avery Johnson threw an interception to a defensive lineman who was like, nah, dude, I'm not here for it. And dropped it. In his hands, dropped it. At BYU, you look at Kansas. At BYU is a different game. Here are Kansas's losses. At Illinois, at West Virginia, at Arizona State, at K-State. Their 2 wins have been at home at Arrowhead. Now, they've also lost at home. TCU beat them pretty badly. UNLV beat them. Great win for UNLV there. Who I would also point out that UNLV hasn't lost anything. UNLV is I think their biggest issue is that Colorado State's not on their schedule. And Colorado State's got YO, Fresno State, and Utah State left. And I think it's going to be tough for UNLV to get into the conference championship game because I do think that Boise State's going undefeated. And I think Colorado State and Boise State will end up in the end of the day playing for that conference championship. But UNLV is a good win, right? And I also think that when you look at where BYU is, I just think people don't know about BYU.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also brings back this question right here. Who does BYU play in the conference championship game?
I think it'll be Colorado.
If
Honestly.
Colorado runs the table and ends up in the conference championship game, and don't forget, week 2 college football playoff rankings come out tonight. Do you believe that Colorado deserves a shot in the college football playoff if they run the table and they go undefeated? I don't know how they get there. At 18 in the AP poll done by soccer writers, I don't know how Colorado gets there. I think that's a long road to hoe. I think that you have a lot of quality football teams in front of you.
Hey, you're going to need help for sure. I mean, you're going to need Miami to lose again.
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
That's a huge question. Does Miami get into the ACC championship game? And here's the other question. Do you think that if Miami loses again and goes to the conference championship game, does the ACC get a bye? Because I don't think Boise State's going to lose until they get into the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And if they run the table and win their conference championship, wouldn't Miami be behind Boise State in the polls?
I think that's
a
logically speaking, sure, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen. You know, like we've seen this before where, hey, the formula says X, but we get Y. And the hard part is, again, you know, for everyone's All-American, you know, cool, you've got a back. But if you put Miami or if you put Boise State on the same field as Miami, I think we all know how that's going to go.
But let's play the game because SMU is undefeated. Right? They're 5-0 in conference. Their only loss is to BYU. Boston College at Virginia, Cal. I wouldn't expect SMU to lose one of those games. SMU's going to the conference championship game. Clemson. Pitt has a chance to save their season at home Saturday against Clemson. But look at what Clemson's got left. The Citadel and then South Carolina. If Clemson runs the table, it's Clemson and SMU in the conference championship game.
In God's name, image, and likeness.
Okay. That's interesting, right? Miami has, unfortunately for Miami, only 2 games left. And they have not beaten SMU, and they have not beaten Clemson. They have no way to save themselves. So Wake Forest and at Syracuse, I think there's a real chance that Clemson and SMU play for the title. I think SMU wins that game, and then you got to ask yourself, is SMU going to be ranked higher than Boise State? Well, with your loss being BYU, good loss early in the season, but what's your quality win after that? Because Louisville's now a 2-loss team in conference and a 3-loss team on the season. FSU sucks out loud. You don't have a quality win, and you would not have had a quality win on your schedule.
Because it's garbage.
And I'm not over here telling you that Boise State's got a quality schedule because their schedule's weak. Weak like Jake's bench press. Not good.
Right.
I think there's a real chance, though, that Boise State would get a first-round bye. I think these rankings tonight are massively important. Massively important.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how else you contemplate this.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's hard is like we're talking about people's sentiment here. We're talking about like how individuals on the committee view these teams.
Perception versus reality.
Yeah. So like
that's what this is.
You know, and it's the classic conversation of undefeated versus 1 loss or 2 loss, and undefeated at the G5 level playing nobody versus, you know, and again, Boise State's got the Oregon loss, of course, but like, you know, really good team at the G5 level, probably the best team at G5 at this time versus, any given Saturday, the best team in the ACC, you know, depending on who they're playing. So it's like, I think I have a hard time believing that someone's going to say, yeah, Boise State's better than Miami.
I think they're going to have a guy that's going to be in New York City for the Heisman Trophy ceremony in Ashton Genty, if he stays healthy. I think if SMU wins the ACC, Boise State's getting a bye. That's just my feeling. I think you have the best player, because I think you also have to start asking yourself, and from what I'm told, and I've had good conversations with people who have been on these committees, and a lot of it comes down to, okay, well, if these two teams went head to head, who would win?
Yeah.
And I think people would take Boise State over SMU. And I think it is going to be very interesting to see who's healthy and how good are those conference championship games. And I will again go back to my biggest question about BYU. Do they have style points? Because I don't think there's any doubt BYU's schedule, they're getting a bye if they win the conference. Big Ten's getting a bye. SEC's getting a bye.
Yeah.
I think it comes down. That was a tragic loss by Miami for the ACC. I mean, just a terribly timed loss.
Yeah, and I think the other hard part is, like, for the Big 12, you're only getting one team in. It's, this conversation about two teams is over.
But, well, I that's why I ask about, are you telling me that if Deion is 13-14, people will vote for Deion to be in the college football playoff? He will get votes from soccer writers in the AP poll. He will get votes from committee members.
What if it comes down to Colorado or Boise State?
Well, it won't, because Boise State's going to win that conference championship. I think, again, I go back to the soccer writers poll. Yes, I am bitter. I go back to the soccer writers poll. Army's not running the table, and Army's not getting into the college football playoff. Texas A&M or Deion Sanders? I think you're taking Deion Sanders. Wow. SMU, Boise, or Deion Sanders? Probably all three. Miami or Deion Sanders? Man.
It's tough, bro.
Because I also again, just for the emphasis of things, because human beings are going to make this decision, and now you guys bullshit. Okay, no but monies.
I want the BCS.
No but monies. If we look at the Big 12, and I look at the resume of Coach Prime Time, it's okay. It's good. It's not great. Your loss to Nebraska sucks. Anybody notice who the offensive coordinator at Nebraska is? Congratulations, Dana. Your loss to K-State. Okay. And this is where I think a lot of people are going to hate this conversation. You have human beings sitting around the table discussing Deion in Colorado in the college football playoff. One says, well, they lost to K-State. What do you think everybody who's defending Deion's going to say? Well, they didn't have Shiloh, and they didn't have Travis, and they didn't have Jimmy Horn Jr. If those guys are healthy, does Colorado win that game? They do. Well, Bonnie, why does that matter? Because they're healthy now, and people want Deion in the college football playoff. You're a homer. Could be. Could be.
Doesn't change the facts.
Doesn't change the fact that human beings are going to sit around a big table, eat pizza, drink sugar soda, become diabetics while voting Deion Sanders into the college football playoff.
You're a homer is the first part.
Because that win at Lubbock, a lot of people watched that win. He went on the road. His road wins are Colorado State in a rivalry game, at UCF, at Arizona, at Texas Tech. If they beat Utah, at Kansas, and Oak State, I think there's a real chance. Number one, and I'll continue to say this, I think they're a nightmare matchup for BYU. So then I flip the script and say Colorado wins the Big 12 championship game. Bye. Does BYU get in? If they're a one-loss team whose only loss was in the conference championship game, you're goddamn right the Mormons are going to the college football playoff. There's no way to keep them out. If they're a one-loss team, so they would be, what would they be here?
SEC.
What? Screw the SEC. No, I'm kidding. What would they?
F around and find out.
Yeah. If BYU goes undefeated, and they're at number 7 now in the AP, my guess is it'll be awfully close to that in the college football playoff.
The first time they lose, they're going to be 15 or 16.
I don't think so. If you're 4th or 5th, because I think the pedos in Happy Ending Valley, I think there's a real good chance they lose. If
Again.
BYU loses, and this is the question I would ask, what is the argument if they run the table with wins at SMU, with wins at Baylor, UCF, Utah, wins against K-State, Oak State at home, Kansas at home, at Arizona State. Arizona State's a quality win now. How are you keeping them out? Those are all good wins. Look how many of those opponents are within striking distance on the graphic on your screen. Are within striking distance. I'm telling you, you're going to have a hard time keeping them out.
Yeah, and I'm telling you that you're going to have a hard time getting them in, not because of BYU, but because of the SEC and the Big Ten.
Well, in the case that I would make is, who's going to throw a wrench into the Notre Dame BYU conversation?
Yeah, and then there's that side of it too. Like, I mean, I think that's the hard part.
Notre Dame doesn't belong in the college football playoff, and I love my Irish. We haven't played anybody.
But again, what are we talking about? Humans.
Yeah, and as an Irish fan, that Texas A&M loss was absolutely a kick in the nuts because it hurts. That's our only quality win. Florida State's putrid.
But again, just the same way, you explained how people would defend Deion. It's easy to say, yeah, you went on the road to College Station and you got it done.
Yeah.
Like early in the season when they were good.
But then I would also go to the SEC and I ask myself, like, Lane Train.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Lane Train and Old Miss.
This is the part as a BYU fan you got to pay attention to, in my opinion.
Now, Lane Train and Old Miss, what's the resume look like? Hot ass girlfriend. They're in the college. Okay.
Hot ass.
Their resume is wins over Georgia. That's a pretty, and not close. They dominated Georgia. Yeah. It's a pretty good win.
With a one-legged Jackson Dart.
That's a pretty good win. A really close loss to LSU. That's a bad loss now because LSU's a 6-3 team. They're not a 7-2 or a 4-1 in conference team anymore. And they don't have another quality win on their schedule. Their one quality win happened at the right time. National TV, everybody watching. You pounded the hell out of Georgia.
What's Bama got left?
Your mom. Alabama's another very interesting one. Alabama's got wins all over the place, though. At Wisco, Georgia, that's a good win. A ranked Missouri team, that's a good win. A ranked LSU team, that's a good win.
So again,
Mercer at Oklahoma, Auburn, they're going to be a 10-2 Alabama team.
So if we go back to the graphic, this is my concern for BYU and really for the Big 12, generally speaking. Is okay, Oregon's in, V is in, Texas is in, right?
Is Penn State in?
Is Penn State in? Because that's the one that could free up some space. And I don't know. I had an issue with them staying at 4.
I think it's ridiculous.
I'm not sure how that's possible, but
and I have a lot of respect for Jed Fish in Washington. Is that a quality win?
No, not for
35-6.
Not for a team that's supposed to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten.
And the biggest problem is what do the pedos have left? Purdue, Minnesota won't, and Maryland.
So Penn State's probably in. Like, I hate to say it, but you're a one-loss team. You're probably in.
They're probably in.
So then
you're looking at, and then but the not to be this guy.
Yeah,
does Indiana deserve to be in the college football playoff?
Win. Google me.
They don't have a win over a ranked opponent.
But they're going to be undefeated.
No, they're not. They're going to get their ass handed to them next weekend against Ohio State.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
If they lose the Ohio State game, does Indiana get into the college football playoff?
Yes.
I think they do not, and here's why. I think it's a crippling indictment on their strength of schedule. Their wins are FIU, Western Illinois, at UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, at Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, at Michigan State, Michigan. Not a single ranked team on that schedule, now or when they played them. Your wins are against the bottom of the Big Ten, which is really bad. And your remaining game at
Stay hard.
Ohio State.
What if they lose? What if Ohio State beats them by a field goal?
Well, that's a different story. I think Ohio State is going to run them off the field.
Okay, that may happen, but let's say you lose by one possession in a tight game. They're probably getting in.
If my aunt or my uncle, cojones and stuff.
But this is my point. If Indiana's a one-loss team and BYU's a one-loss team, naturally you're going to say, well, BYU's got strength of schedule. They should get in.
I don't disagree with you.
But the hard part is if Indiana goes to the shoe and puts on a really good performance and, not saying they win the game, but let's say they take Ohio State to the brink. Ohio State's got to kick a late field goal to win that ball game. You tell me people aren't going to take that into consideration and say, yeah, you know what? Like Ohio State's number 2 in the country right now or whatever. Like you took them to the wire. Like, yeah, Kirk Cignetti's team is solid.
At the horseshoe. Okay. That's not happening. That's not happening. Gabriel, I miss Monty in the afternoon. LOL. Love the show. I miss the afternoon too. I miss the afternoon too. Okay. You want to talk about...
We made it 60 minutes, people. We made it 60 minutes.
Do you know what this jackwagon tweeted at me yesterday?
He's got no class.
He says, you're a fan if you've been to your team's stadium. Oak State James, who's trying to put himself off now as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, says he's a fan because he's been to Arrowhead Stadium. That makes him a fan. Bro, as I said to you on Twitter, I've been to Lambeau Field a dozen times, and I flipping hate the Packers.
Arrowhead Stadium?
I've been to U.S. Cellular crap hole on the south side of Chicago, and I hate the Chicago White Sox. I've been there for 100 games. I've been to the sports arena to see the Clippers, and I hate the Clippers. I've been to Milwaukee. I hate everything about Milwaukee. Just because you go to a stadium doesn't make you a fan of the team. And that's why you got roasted on Twitter. I saw BYU versus SMU in person, so now you're a fan of BYU. I stand by what I say. BYU has a stout defense. And Jake Retzloff's an amazing quarterback. But what about John Stone? It's not John's. Anyway, it's Preston.
I'm a man.
Remember how phallic you were over Preston Stone this summer?
Cut.
Remember that? And you were talking about like, hey, can we get him, one of those trimmers for the tuck and fold? Remember all that stuff? Only weakness is drop passes by the wide receivers. Yeah. I mean, you're the
holding penalties.
You're the only one saying that.
Yeah.
They're wide receiver. Okay. Tom Dean. Hello, Tom. If Indiana comes close, if coming close counted.
Okay, dude. This is a family show, dude.
This is a family. Can you do something for me? Tom, this is a family show. You watch yourself,
dude,
sir.
We don't need to be talking about coming close, dude. That's not cool.
Kansas would be top 25. Turns out winning counts. Coming close does not.
Okay, here's the difference, though. Here's the difference.
Yeah.
Indiana hasn't lost 7 times like Kansas has.
Yep.
Indiana, that's right, hasn't lost at all.
Yep.
And so they're forcing people's hands because they haven't lost. And I agree, that schedule is soft as hell. There's no question about it. But you also can't get away from if you lose by 3 or even if you lose by 1 touchdown. People are going to say, hey, Ohio State's like the best team in the country outside of Oregon, and you went on the road and only lost by a touchdown and looked pretty damn good doing it. Like that, I'm telling you, that's going to happen if that's how the game goes.
UW fan Jim, not everyone completely dismisses the Big Ten like you two do. Yeah, funny thing is, I was on the radio in Minneapolis the other day. They were dismissing the Big Ten too.
Yeah, like what do you mean? Dude?
I was doing an interview talking about the Holy War, and we were talking about this exact conversation. And the guy that I was on with, straight up, I can't remember his name, Malachi or maliciousness or whatever, straight up said this is one of the worst seasons he's ever seen in the Big Ten.
Okay, well, how does that work?
Well, because it's one of the worst seasons the Big Ten has ever had in football. Because you look at all the teams that are bad in this league. It goes from Iowa all the way down to Purdue.
Yeah, but nobody cares about those teams.
You have right, but you usually have depth in this league. And now you were supposed to be better because you're up to 16 teams, right?
Well, no, the Big Ten has never had depth. What do you mean? This is the first season where the Big Ten was supposed to have had more teams in the conversation. But if you look at the graph, the Big
Of
Ten,
the 18 teams in this league, you have 2 that are elite. And one of them's Indiana. And nobody believes that Indiana's good. Everybody elite. Everybody thinks Indiana's good because they haven't played anybody. You've missed are you playing Oregon? Are you playing Penn State? Are you even playing you're playing the bottom feeders in this league? And your one out is Ohio State. That's your one chance to show America what you're really built of. On the road at the shoe against Ohio State. I agree. It's one of the worst years we've ever seen. Even if you go back in time, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota over the last couple of years has been in every single game. They're terrible this year. And they're 6-4.
Yeah, I guess I just see it differently, man. I think that most years we're talking about 2 teams in the Big Ten. Typically, we're talking about
but you're 18 teams in this league now, right? Yeah, you're 18 teams in this league now. And pretty much 15 of the 18 teams are pretty mediocre. And I agree. The Pac-12 corner of the Big Ten has stunk out loud outside of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon is by far the best team in this league. By far the best team in this league. And here's something else for you, friends. Let's say Ohio State somehow loses, and this is the doomsday scenario. Ohio State loses. They beat Indiana and they lose their last game somehow, some way. Indiana and Oregon play for the Big Ten championship. Oregon dismantles the Indiana Hoosiers. Does Indiana get into the college football playoff?
No,
I don't think they would.
At that point, they wouldn't. At that point, you would.
So you'd only have Ohio State and maybe not Ohio State. How many Big Ten teams are getting in?
Yeah, I think that we need to be careful saying that the Big Ten is not performing this year. I think here's the problem with that take. Yes, the Big Ten is soft. We know that. That's not new. This isn't rocket science. That's been well documented for a decade. That's not new. The problem this year for the guy that you talked to making the argument that they're having a terrible season.
They are.
Look at the graph. Look at the graphic. It doesn't matter if the names change. Look at the graphic.
You're going to get Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State in. I think it's a real question mark. Do you get Indiana into the college football playoff?
We're sitting here saying they're having a bad year.
Terrible.
They're going to get 3 in.
Yes.
That's not a bad year. That's not a bad year.
When the system's rigged in your favor, that's not a bad year?
No.
Oh, my God.
No, that's not a bad year. It's year 1 of the 12-team playoff. Not a bad year.
I think there's a chance they could have.
How many teams is the SEC going to get in?
I think the SEC gets their conference champion in.
Would that be Georgia?
I would guess Georgia. I think Georgia's in, Bama's in, Ole Miss is in, and
Texas, obviously.
I think the question is, does Ole Miss get in? I think they're getting 4.
Okay, so
because I don't see Ole Miss losing.
So let's say maybe that does happen. That's probably going to happen. Let's be honest. But let's say that the Big Ten and the SEC each get 3. Are we going to sit here and say the SEC didn't have a great year as well? This is my problem. It doesn't matter the depth in your league anymore. Nobody it doesn't matter.
Okay, who is Ohio State's lost to? The best team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Penn State's lost to?
The second best team in the country.
So my point is, who is Indiana's lost to? It's probably going to be Ohio State.
But right.
Late in the season. That's all I'm saying is anyway. We could go round and round. I would agree that the Big Ten is not a good league. I think the SEC is the best league by far. And I think that this league in the Big Ten, if Indiana loses, don't show up here and proclaim that the Big Ten is a great league. Don't show up here and make the argument that this league is somehow elite or amazing.
I'm not saying they're elite or amazing.
I think Ohio State and Oregon are by far the two best teams. I love Kurt Cignetti's, bravado, the head coach at Indiana.
Yeah.
I love his bravado. That's an average-ass football team. Period. They have beaten nobody. Nobody.
My main point is that everyone wants to sit here and say that the Big Ten's schedule and the league is soft. I'm not disagreeing with that point. I'm not saying the Big Ten's a great league. What I'm saying is that we can't say the Big Ten's having a terrible year when we look around college football. They're going to get 3 in. The SEC is going to get 3 to 4 in. The Big 12 is going to get 1, and the ACC is going to be lucky to get 2.
Son, I got news for you. The SEC is getting 4 in. And I don't care if you got to have a flatbed pickup truck, tow truck thing to drag that ass across. They're getting 4 in. How, under what scenario does the Tennessee Volunteers? The Tennessee Volunteers beat Alabama, who was the 7th team in the country. They're getting in because they have Mississippi State that they just beat. They've got Georgia this week. And this is the catastrophe if you're the Big Ten. If you are Tennessee right now, where would you guys surmise that Tennessee, if they lose to Georgia? Because this week I think Tennessee probably stays at 6.
If they lose?
If they lose, how far do you think they fall? They're not falling out of the top 12. That's not happening.
Well,
if you lose to Georgia?
So look at Georgia. So Georgia's at 12, right? Or Georgia's at 11. So if Georgia beats Tennessee, I would expect them to get like 3, maybe 4 spots.
I would expect Georgia to be in the 8th spot, and I would expect Tennessee to be 10, 11.
Okay, so where does Notre Dame go then, rankings-wise?
I think Notre Dame's biggest problem is that Notre Dame doesn't have again, I'll just keep telling you guys this, they don't have a quality win. And they don't have, I want Notre Dame in the college football playoff as much as anybody. And I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to continue to go back and forth and round and round and round about this. Breaking news. The Chicago Bears have fired Shane Waldren.
Well.
Wow. Finally. Holy cow. Finally. The Chicago Bears have fired Shane Waldren, the offensive coordinator. Finally. Holy bejesus. It is a miracle. We are not saved because they're not good. Luke Getsy and Shane Waldren, what do those guys have in common?
They're both Garbo.
Yeah, they're both former Chicago Bears offensive coordinators now. They're gone. It'll be very interesting to see who takes over for Shane Waldren. We'll get into the NFL here in a bit, but I want to finish this conversation. So breaking news, ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Shane Waldren fired as the offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears. But let me just round out this conversation about who's in and who's out, because I think this is a big one. I want Notre Dame in the college football playoff, but I can't make the argument that they belong there. They don't have quality wins. And when they bolo Virginia this weekend, and then on the week of Thanksgiving, you're going to play an Army team that'll be ranked probably, because I don't think Army loses. Army's 9-0 right now, and they're not going to play anybody before the Notre Dame game. In either way, let's say Notre Dame loses, they're out of the college football playoff. Because I think they are hanging on by a hair on their chinny chin chin right now. And I think everybody keeps saying to me, well, they're in the top 12, Monty. Doesn't matter. Because ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to have to resume build. And when you look at Notre Dame, do you know the single biggest problem for Notre Dame is not who they play? It's one game at the end of the year. And you know what that game is? It's going to absolutely be crippling for them. Army-Navy. Because arguably, who are their second and third best wins on their schedule? If A&M's the best win on their schedule, and I don't think you can argue that, Army and Navy are the best other wins on their schedule, and somebody's going to lose 2 games. because I think Notre Dame's going to beat Army. And if Army loses back-to-back to Notre Dame and Navy, I think it's crippling to Notre Dame. I think it's absolutely crippling. So, all right, let's get through some of your comments here. Let's see. I'm sure I'm going to take a lot of heat over my opinions. And Donuts, did you see Del Rio drive his car through a fence? I did not see that. Red Wine, Deion has a lot of black fans. Well, thank you for that. I don't know what that has to do with the price of tea in Boulder. Sir Bob Lobbs, FSU got SEC'd. Jay McClanahan, if Utah and FSU played, who would win? Okay. Lost to Kentucky and LSU for Kiffin. He's getting in. That's one of the best wins of the year over Georgia. How do you keep him out? UW fan Jim, this year, this is the year of the Big Ten. The whole conference, Purdue is sold, and they have 4 of the top 5. So you think Purdue is one of the worst teams in the country? Purdue is one of the worst teams in the entire country. What do you mean that this is the year of the Big Ten? That I don't understand. That you're going to have to. Indiana is far from a lock, dude. And if you guys, is this the only show you listen to? Apparently, you think I'm the only one saying that Indiana's has to win. They have to win at Ohio State, and I think that I think would put them at 86% to get in. And then they have to go to the Big Ten championship game and show.
And by the way, it also needs to be said, if Indiana beats Ohio State, that's not good for the Big Ten.
No.
That's bad for the Big Ten.
Because what happens to Ohio State if Indiana beats Ohio State?
Yeah, that's not good for the Big Ten.
You know how close it's going to be if Ohio State loses to Indiana? Do you know how close it's going to be that Ohio State won't get into they'll be in the 10, 11, 12 conversation.
Yeah, I have to say, and it's not even for me, it's not even about Indiana as far as that game is concerned. I'm terrified of Ryan Day playing Indiana. Terrified, because what do we know about Indiana? We know they haven't played anybody. We know that. But we also know that they're a physical team, that they're one of those teams that wants to try to push you around. And that scares me.
What is the reputation of Indiana? They can win in any style of play.
Right.
So I just ask you, for a team that has the most points on the board in the Big Ten, on its face, if I said to you, is it impressive that Indiana has scored the most points in the Big Ten? 279 points. Is that impressive? Yes. But now we have to look at the facts of the case. Who have they scored the most points against? They scored 31 against FIU, 77 against Directional Illinois, 42 against UCLA, 52 against Charlotte, 42 against Maryland. By the way, Maryland of 1-5 in the conference, 41 against Northwestern, 2-4 in the conference, 56 against Nebraska. You understand that Nebraska right now is 2-4 in the Big Ten.
How much does, just while we're looking at these, because I know we talk about style points all the time, does them running it up on these teams add any style points?
Not according to Heather Dinich at ESPN. Because I agree with Heather. If they lose to Ohio State and Ohio State runs out, Indiana is in the exact same place that Notre Dame is in. If they get blown, if they get blown out, worst case scenario for Indiana, they get absolutely torched and they're like 17th after the Ohio State loss. They don't have a road home.
Nope.
They don't have a road home.
That's what I'm saying. For the Big Ten, the best case scenario is Indiana loses by a field goal. Now, I'm
I
not
agree
saying
with
that's
that.
going to happen. I'm just saying that's best case scenario.
Because then what happens? That secures Ohio State. That puts Oregon and Ohio State in all likelihood into the Big Ten championship, and Indiana has an argument to make.
Yeah.
We lost one game on the road at Ohio State, who you guys say is one of the top 3 teams in the country, because at that point, Ohio State would be 1, 2, or 3.
And by the way, if you're Indiana, the other thing I think you're going to say is you don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to say we suck and we're a terrible football program and then hold our feet to the fire when we lose to thee by, 10 points.
And listen, if everybody, I think everybody agrees that if Indiana runs the table, wins the Big Ten championship, absolutely, they're in with a bye.
But then
they're in with a bye.
They would have beaten legit competition.
They would have beaten Oregon and they would have beaten Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then what's the argument? They're in. They're arguably the best team in the country at that point. But are they tested at all?
No.
And UW fan Jim, not everyone completely dismisses the Big Ten like you do. I haven't completely dismissed the Big Ten. Dude, you can be a red ass because Washington's in the Big Ten. Washington's part of the problem with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
USC is a major problem for the Big Ten.
Washington's not a quality win this year.
No, that's the problem. Washington does not.
And I like Jed Fish, but.
And I think they're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But you look at any national pundit, what's the number one thing they're going to say about Indiana? They've played nobody. They've not been tested, not one time this year.
Have they played? Did they play Michigan?
Yeah.
They did?
Yes, this past weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
20-15.
Yeah.
Which, again, part of the problem is what? Michigan, who is a 3-4 football team, and they're under 500 in the Big Ten. And who's Michigan's big quality win? Well, was it Oregon? No, they got blown out by Oregon. And again, if we're looking at like for like, Oregon more than doubled Michigan 38-17. Indiana 20-15. And where was that game played? That was at the Big House. Oh, wait, that's right. No, it wasn't. It was in Bloomington. That was a home game, and you had to hang on to beat Michigan.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And I know that you can be a red ass and you can say that I don't know what I'm talking about. I think if we're telling the truth, the only thing that Indiana has to do is don't lose. I think lose by a field goal to Ohio State.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, they're in.
Yeah.
But again, I just point you to this graphic right here. How far does Indiana fall if they lose by 21 points?
You're out of the top 12. I'm telling you. You're below. You're somewhere between 10 and 20. And depending on what else happens.
I think it is very likely. They have not seen a defense the caliber. I'm not even worried about the offense at Ohio State. I think the defense at Indiana is very good. Indiana has not seen an athletic secondary, and I don't think that they have seen the kind of talent that is stocked on that defense at Ohio State, who's already fighting a reputation problem, who already lost at Oregon and clearly went to Penn State to prove a point and proved a point. And if you don't think they're out to prove a point against Indiana, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
And this is what I say. Same thing I say about BYU. If BYU somehow anyway drops the ball against Kansas or Arizona State, or they're going to miss the college football playoff. A one-loss BYU team is going to be a one-loss
win the
conference championship. BYU is in. A one-loss, a two-loss BYU team.
No, you're not in.
You're not in. Notre Dame has zero room for error, and they're 8th in the country. We can go on and on and on about it. You don't have to like it. The reality is human beings will make this decision. The Big Ten has always been a 3-team league.
Yeah, I think that like you and I agree on the Big Ten. I think that the only part I disagree with is this notion that somehow this is like one of the worst seasons the Big Ten's ever had. The Big Ten only ever has 3 teams.
I think at a minimum, it's one of the most disappointing seasons this league has ever had.
So, okay, if it's disappointing, was the expectation you were going to get like 4 or 5 in or something?
Yes, I think the expectation was with the teams coming in. USC specifically, I think, is one of the biggest disappointments. That you don't have a chance. I think their chances of getting 4 in are in jeopardy.
Yeah.
You need Indiana and Penn State to perform down the stretch. Don't have a bobble. Indiana's got to run the table because, again, I just go look at the resumes. The only thing that if Indiana loses a game, the only way they get in is because they're the Big Ten. In my opinion, if they lose that Ohio State game significantly, the only way Indiana would get in is because they have more sway than the Big 12 and the ACC.
And I'm telling you, it really depends ultimately on what the secondary SEC teams do. I mean, if the secondary SEC teams struggle down the stretch, then maybe that opens the door a little bit.
Because I would go to somebody like K-State. If you're K-State, what's your college football playoff resume? That your losses are to BYU and then a terrible loss to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But you beat Oak State, who was 20th at the time. You beat Colorado. Like, those are the teams that if you're K-State and you're a 2-loss and you beat Arizona State, Cincinnati, and you win at Iowa State, and you win your last 3 games and you're a 10-2 football team, Indiana loses 1 game and they get in instead of K-State.
Yeah, see, like, to me, that's tough. That's tough. Like, that Houston loss is damning. You can't lose to Houston.
Terrible loss.
That's just a terrible, brutal, unacceptable loss.
If you're Colorado and you finish your season as a 10-2, 1 loss at the end of the season, you lost in the conference championship game, and you haven't lost since that K-State game,
I don't think you're in. Because you lost to K-State, and K-State has a terrible loss on their resume.
So you don't get in.
Yeah.
And Indiana's a 1-loss team that gets in.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that Colorado doesn't belong in. I think the Nebraska loss is the most damning loss on Colorado's schedule, and it was in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to take Colorado out of the college football playoff and put Indiana without a quality win into the college football playoff.
Yeah, because I think what people are going to say, I agree with you, but I don't trust people.
Well,
I think what people are going to say is, hey, 1-loss team, Big Ten team, great year. Like that's what I think most people would say about Indiana. Because, again, what you also have to remember is I always feel like an a-hole for saying this, but the folks on the committee are not sports fans, in my opinion. They are educators and administrators who are on this committee trying to make a difference. That's my opinion.
I don't know, because I look at this playoff picture and I tend to think that the disappointment in the Big Ten is that you're no longer Ohio State and Michigan as a league, right? Because I don't disagree with whoever said that the Big Ten's a 3-team league. I don't disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But are you really a 3-team league when Penn State finds a way to blow their feet off every year? Right? Is Penn State a national championship caliber team every year? They're not.
No.
This has been Ohio State and Michigan. The Pac-12 was supposed to fix that problem. You had a team in Washington that played for a national championship. You have Oregon and USC, elite programs. And
stuff happened in the offseason.
Nothing. And UCLA has been dog.
Anyway. Anyone thinking UCLA was going to do something
right?
is...
But you're really disappointed that this Pac-12 contingent did not bolster this league, obviously outside of Oregon. And I think that this was supposed to be a 4 or 5 team league.
Yeah.
And it's not a 4 or 5 team league. And I listen, the proof will be in the pudding, and maybe I'll sit here and I'll have to eat crow about it, but I'm telling you, this is not a 4 or 5 team league.
No.
It is not better than it had been.
Yeah, maybe that's the issue. Maybe, and then we have to move on, I know. But, like, maybe the issue is, like, and maybe this is because, obviously we cover college football daily. We're so in tune with what's going on. I guess I didn't feel like the Pac-12 contingent was going to fix the Big Ten's issues per se. Like, because we have the ability, obviously, as people who cover college football, and you as a fan understand that, hey, once DeBoer left Washington, and you had to go the Jed Fish route, we knew that Washington wasn't going to be.
Step back.
Yeah, we knew that. So immediately that changed the expectation.
Jed didn't get Noah Fifita to go with him.
Yeah. And so once that happened, it was like, okay, UCLA is not going to do anything. We knew that.
Yep.
Washington's not the same team. I think, depending on who you ask, Lincoln Riley was a question mark. I think people don't trust Lincoln at USC. And now with what has happened this year, obviously he's on the hot seat.
Yep.
And so I think it's a situation where I didn't go into this season being like, man, like this Pac-12 wing is going to really change things. What I was hoping for is that I agree on the SC front. I was hoping that Oregon and SC would bolster the Ohio State, Penn State thing, because we knew Michigan would take a step back. But nobody saw Indiana coming. So that's why I say it's kind of, crazy to be like, oh, well, hey, if you're disappointed in the Big Ten this year, I think we're not taking into account what's happened in the offseason.
But again, and it's because I grew up in the Big Ten, I know these things and a lot of people don't. Northwestern has had one off year. There have been other Indianas.
Mm-hmm.
There have been Minnesotas. There have been Michigan State years, very rarely.
Sure. Yeah.
You've had that team. This has been a 2-team league for how long?
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom Dean, up here in Monty Copter 69, over Arrowhead Stadium, there's Oak State James being arrested for trying to pour concrete on the top of Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, upper deck.
Is that a large 32-ounce fountain soda from the QT that James has there? They're throwing
Monty
on some porn charges because apparently Oak State James has books about priest pedos. Oak State James is writing a book about pedophilia in the priesthood.
Nice, dude.
I'm not even joking about that. So there you go. It's fine. Couple more comments, and we got to get going. I have always respected the Big Ten. Okay. I didn't say it was a respect or disrespect thing. See, this is what happens in sports because we disagree. Like, it's not a respect the Big Ten or don't respect the Big Ten.
Yeah.
The reality is, for a lifetime, it's been a 2-team league. They've always had Michigan. They've always had Ohio State.
And clearly, based on your interactions with other media members, people thought the Big Ten was going to be some, 5-team league. And I'm going to be honest and say, I think that's misplaced expectations. Like once DeBoer left, like USC's a question mark. Michigan took a step back. Like if you genuinely took a look at this conference before the season started, you would have never said this had been a 5-team league. I just don't think that that's correct.
And go back and watch the second half of Indiana, Michigan.
Yeah, seriously.
You would agree with me if you had seen that game.
Yeah.
The Chad Carter, the Pac-12 teams is a bit of a bust this year. Hopefully they turn it around and improve the conference, and they will. USC is going to win national championships.
Does he survive?
He will be back next year. I was told the other day he will be back next year. That unless Lincoln Riley resigns, which he won't because that would cost him an awful lot of money, he will be back next year. There's no question about it. Mike Smith, sorry, did not see it. Pitt has lost both games on ACC Network. They need to stay off that ACC network. I think that Pitt is one of the most fraudulent teams of the year. Yeah. That team was never elite. That team was never, and this happens every year. And I understand that Indiana fans and Big Ten fans are going to be like, oh, Indiana's great. It doesn't matter. They got their doors blown off by Ohio State. If that happens, they're a good team that's not great, and they're not nearly as good as their hype.
Yeah.
They're just not. So, Damian Fowler, did you guys see the Georgia players celebrating on the field with Ole Miss fans?
Yeah,
I did see that. The Chad Carter. Listen, it's a little exciting to see an upstart program undefeated. Yes, reality will probably come crashing down during the OSU game, but as an eternal pessimist, I'll wait to watch the game.
Yeah,
you better.
And I think for college football too, generally, I don't even think this is just a Big Ten conversation, right? I mean, this is a college football conversation about teams at Indiana's level that can pick up steam through hiring a new head coach and making the right hire, and just how quickly that kind of person can turn it around. And that's why I say, like, for Indiana fan, like, do not expect to beat Ohio State, certainly, but I would expect you to put up a pretty damn good fight. Like, if you are who you say you are, if you're this tough physical team that can lean on a team, maybe not beat them, but lean on them, like, sorry, Ohio State fan. Ohio State has shown a willingness to play tight games and to not put teams away and to make you a little nervous over the years under Ryan Day.
And it's also the Nebraska conversation. The same thing as Indiana. Oh, Nebraska is a good team who just fired their offensive coordinator and hired Darren Holgerson.
Yeah.
You don't do that mid-season. Who are you, the Chicago Bears? You don't do that mid-season if you're good.
Yeah.
Nebraska's a solid team. They're not a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska is a team that will likely be bowl eligible. You can't lose to UCLA and call yourself a good football team.
Yep.
And I think that game was in Lincoln, right? They have SC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Does Nebraska win another game? Because I would also point to USC's schedule. Look at USC's losses.
Good Lord.
3 points at Michigan, 7 points at Minnesota, 3 points against Penn State, 1 point against Maryland, 5 points against Washington, and was clearly, I thought, the better team against Washington. And you're talking about firing Lincoln Riley, who now has got to go and beat Nebraska, UCLA, and Notre Dame to get bowl eligible. And there's talk if they only win 6 games, they won't go to a bowl. Like, yeah, the Big Ten's good. It's not great. It's a 2.5, 3 team league right now today. Mike Smith, officiating has been bad this year. Even when they show the replays, they have still gotten calls wrong, which is unbelievable to me.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go to replay. You'll see it. The kid's foot's out of bounds. Touchdown. What? Oh, it's not indisputable. Okay.
Yeah, well, it was indisputable when I was sitting on my couch eating popcorn.
It's indisputable that officiating has been hot ass this year.
100%.
Like that's you want to know what's indisputable evidence? The officiating has not been good.
Hot ass.
At all. Damian Fowler, don't forget Ward Manuel is the chairman of the college football playoff, so Big Ten could get 4.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that they would get 4, in my opinion. I think the only path is 3. That's it. That's the only path.
Yeah.
So, loaner phone. Mike, gambling is gambling's not a problem. Gambling is not a problem. Traditionally, it's been Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Penn State eliminates itself most years because they lose to Ohio State and Michigan or both.
Agreed.
And it's James Franklin.
Yep.
It's James Franklin. It's James Franklin. Eric and Raleigh. Nothing says offensive coordinator upgrade for the Bears like hiring an old Carolina Panthers OC. Bro.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Please don't get me started. Can a 2-loss SMU make it to the college football playoff losing to Miami on an ACC championship game?
No.
Don't think so.
Nope.
Because they're looking for ways to get the SEC and the Big Ten in. They're not looking for ways to help the ACC or the Big 12.
Yeah, I think the only 2-loss teams getting in are Big Ten and SEC teams. I think if you're in the Big 12 or the ACC, it's 1 loss or undefeated.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
That's why I say the road for Colorado, they have to win the Big 12 championship to get in.
Yep.
I think K-State, that K-State loss really hurts. How did you lose that game?
Yeah, your season's over. K-State has no chance. I just think it's just not
Colorado's got to win out, but because K-State's got the hammer on Colorado, but Colorado's got to win out. So Ronnie Southern, USC hasn't been elite since Carroll was the coach. Can't disagree with that now.
Yeah.
So Lamont Tucker, hello, Lamont. Everyone that the Big Ten has added to the conference has been disappointing. Nebraska, UCLA, USC, Washington, Maryland, Rutgers. Let's be honest. Yeah.
But again, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but you're placing expectations on programs that have never shown you they can compete in this era of college football. Why are we sitting here saying we're disappointed in these programs when they're not college football playoff caliber programs?
Because they're not taking the money they're making and putting it into football. Nebraska is. I would agree Nebraska is. Is UCLA?
No.
Is USC? Yes. USC is spending money like they've got all of it.
Yeah. Just renovated the facilities, last year, I think it was?
New practice facility coming.
Yeah. Like
Coliseum renovated. But are you telling me that Rutgers is doing everything they can do? Are you telling me that Washington's doing everything they can do? Are you telling? Come on. It is. You've got to go and win. You got to go and win. Rock and Rant 499 to say Miami wins their last 2 games and they are in the ACC title. Guys, they control their own destiny. Nobody said that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard part is Cam Ward is just making it a roller coaster every week. And, I know that
he's frustrating sometimes.
The pick 2 weeks ago where he throws across his body across the field.
Unforgivable.
Last week, the fumble where he's just hanging. And you knew that was going to happen at some point. Quarterbacks who hang the football out like that while they're scrambling, you're going to fumble at some point. It's going to happen. And it's unfortunate because that definitely cost him his Heisman, no question.
And he fumbled with an open receiver.
Yeah. So, it just is what it is. I mean, sure. Could they get to the ACC championship game and punch their ticket that way? Sure. Absolutely. That's fine. But
what does this loss do to Miami? Wake Forest and Syracuse. If you're writing off Syracuse as a win, I probably wouldn't do that. I probably would not do that. And I'm not saying that Syracuse is playing well. They've lost to Pitt and Boston College, and they're at Cal, UConn, and Miami to finish off. That's the game of the year left for Syracuse.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at the rest of that league, I think the biggest problem for Miami is that Louisville's got Stanford, Pitt, and Kentucky, 3 really mediocre teams. And Miami's room for error is gone now. Clemson, as I was talking about earlier, has Pitt, Citadel, and South Carolina.
I thought you said Citadel.
Pitt and the Citadel are 2 very average teams. South Carolina can beat you. They've shown that, right? They've shown you that they can win that game. They're 6-3, and I'd also remind you that they have wins over Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, who they handled substantially. Their losses are to Ole Miss, Alabama, and LSU.
Yeah.
South Carolina's a good football team. So the conjecture and the conversation will go on and on and on. I think it is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. I think it is. Yeah. UW fan Jim, good point, guys. Washington never makes the playoff. Who said that?
You're making a fool of yourself.
You
dude.
are.
What are we doing?
Why every day does somebody become a red ass on the show?
Like,
please go back, quote the timestamp where we said Washington never makes the playoffs. In fact, I believe I just said they played for a national championship.
And we also said that Kalen DeBoer left for Alabama. The program took a step back.
Can you guys just, for 5 minutes, irrational sports fan, take your emotions out of it and have an intellectual conversation? The problem at Washington is it's Jed Fish without Noah Fafita. And without Tataroa McMillan. And their offense has been wildly inconsistent, and their defense at times, which should be the best or one of the best in that conference, their defense doesn't always play well. But yet you want to come in and say, yeah, Washington never makes the playoffs. Yeah, that's what we said.
Yeah, that's like, what are you doing, dude?
God, it drives me crazy that sports fan guy can't take his emotions out of it. It makes me we're trying to have like a real conversation about where the Big Ten is at. In Washington, under Jed Fish, doesn't look great right now. But does that erase somehow what Chris Peterson and Kalen DeBoer did?
No.
Out of your mind. Yeah, exactly right. Don't try to reason with me, Minty. Exactly right. G-off. I'm a blue ass today. You guys are doing great.
Hey, man, you should be riding high.
Damian Fowler, no, get it right, money. It's a homer red ass. Exactly right.
You know what I mean?
You're
like,
a homer.
come on,
Is the
dude.
first
Exactly
part.
right. It drives me crazy. Yeah, it just is what it is. All right, let's get to the National Football League. Breaking news in Chicago. The Chicago Bears have fired Shane Waldren. And I think this is a move because look at one of the banners we had talking points today. Is GM Ryan Poles a problem for the Chicago Bears? And if we go and we talk about the Bears, I think one of the biggest issues for the Chicago Bears is that you have a head coach in Matt Eberflus who's trying to win games, who's trying to make the NFL playoffs, when the Chicago Bears should be pointed at developing Caleb Williams, period. That's it. That's your entire job this year. Develop Caleb Williams. Stop calling plays that are meant to do something other than develop Caleb Williams. The scripting of plays, the first 15 has been horrendously bad. It's been that way all season. The inability to run the ball, the inability to throw the ball, the inability to protect Caleb Williams has been problematic all season long. And this morning, Shane Waldren, the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator, has paid with his job, as he should have 3 weeks ago. But I sit here and I ask you point blank, is Ryan Poles, the general manager of the Chicago Bears, a problem? Well, until he shows he's not, I'm going to say he is, because Ryan Poles is a guy who sat up on a dais with the Chicago Bears over the summer and defended his decision to keep Matt Eberflus, which now looks like an abject failure.
Changes to the staff and in moving on from several offensive coaches. This team has 10 wins in 2 years. And I apologize for the awkward nature of this question. What made you want to stay with Matt Eberflus and knowing that that's the direction you want to go at head coach?
Yeah, everything I talked about in the beginning, just in terms of his leadership and stability, I really think that the head coach needs to be able to captain the ship when the seas are when the seas have storms, and really keep everything settled. When you go through hard times and he can keep everyone together, to me, that's like the critical piece in a big in a market like this. Like, you have to be strong. I mean, if he's jumping off the boat and everyone else starts jumping off the boat, it's a hot mess. So the stability was a big piece of it. The detail that he coaches with, taking some of the mistakes from the game, bringing them to practice, and making sure that we're doing things the right way. I saw a lot of progress in that. There's a reason why we went from 3 to 7 wins. The player aspect of it is important, but also the detail and bringing the team together and sticking through those hard times allowed us to push through. And you saw a lot of those wins happening towards the back end of the season. If it's not for him, I really don't think that's the case. I think it starts to crumble. Everyone starts to do their own thing. So to me, that was a critical piece in this.
That was last January after the Bears season came to an end.
So wait, your big thing is, hey, we're not developing Caleb Williams. But at the end of last season, he said, this is why we're bringing Eberflus back, because he takes details from the game, failures from the game, puts them into practice, and then we see that development, week after week.
Which we have not seen from this Bears team, who, again, to their credit, according to Adam Schefter at ESPN, the Chicago Bears have fired Shane Waldren this morning. So when we ask, is Ryan Poles a problem? My question is, why didn't you fire this guy after he said this right here?
Are you willing to be fired without ever exploring the possibility that the offense could be better with better offensive game planning and play calling by changing the coordinator?
Yeah, like I said, we'll look at everything. I think it's look from everything from the top to the bottom and making sure that we're finding the answers to move the ball on the field, play better as a football team on offense, defense, and special teams.
Change in offense.
That was the clip from Sunday after the game. And he said everything was on the table. And I just ask you again, what is it about Matt Eberflus where you're like, man, that's my dude? Because this is the exact same football team it was last year. I'd remind you, who was the quarterback last year that was problematic? Well, it was Justin Fields. And you traded him because you were drafting Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams has, while I don't believe he's regressed, he certainly is not developed. And you haven't fired the head coach. And the Bears, who historically never fire coaches in the season, you're the same team you've always been. This general manager talked about the importance of the offensive line, yet this offensive line is the weakest unit on the football team. It's not close in Chicago. The Chicago Bears offensive line is their weakest unit on the entire football team. And the head coach gets to keep his job. The general man, I don't think Ryan Poles should be fired. You got to fire the head coach. You should have cleaned house. And they didn't. And now you have to wait for confirmation. Let's see who the offensive coordinator is going to be. Let's see how they go and unwind that watch, and let's see what they do. But Shane Waldren being fired was the exact right move 3 weeks ago. And I guess it's better than not doing it at all, you should have done it 3 weeks ago.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that, the Bears are an organization that drags their feet on everything. And I think that, you're currently in position to go after the number 1 pick again in next year's draft, like this coming year's draft. And, it's what we, said about the Cardinals all those years ago before Kyler Murray happened. It's year after year where you're terrible and terrible and terrible, bad leadership, bad coaching, bad GMing. And the sad part is Ryan Poles has done a halfway decent job GMing the team. I mean, the roster is not horrible. I mean, again, let's not forget essentially the trade-off you made in the draft this year was that, hey, we're going to draft Caleb Williams damn well knowing the offensive line's not going to be good this year. And we're going to try to put pieces around him to alleviate that pressure a little bit. The issue is that you're not developing Caleb Williams and your OC is garbage. And now you've had to fire him. It's his eyes. He doesn't like there's all these highlight reels of Caleb Williams making bad throws to his receivers, like uncatchable balls that just are not good throws. The problem with that is what nobody talks about is he doesn't trust the throw. He doesn't believe in the throw that he's making. So when he's making the throw, he's just trying to survive back there. And that's the issue for the Bears right now.
And then you start to understand who the Bears have promoted. And that is Thomas Brown, the former offensive coordinator of the vaunted Carolina Panthers in 2023. When you look at Bryce Young in 2023, is that at all similar to Caleb Williams? It is. Bryce Young in 2023, 16 games, 2,877 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 picks. You should have fired the head coach. Shane Waldren, very much a problem. Firing Shane Waldren doesn't fix the problems in Chicago.
Yeah.
It just does not. And I think when you look at where this league is going, you need to hire a veteran offensive head coach, and you need to go find, I don't know, Cliff Kingsbury is your offensive coordinator. Go find a guru. Go find an offensive guy that is a guru and make him your offensive coordinator. And go and find a guy, like if Matt Eberflus was your defensive coordinator, great. You're going to win a lot of football games with your defense.
Yep.
The problem is you drafted Caleb Williams number 1. And you've done nothing with him. Who are you, the Carolina Panthers? Apparently, because you're no better than they are. The Chicago Bears today are no better than the Carolina Panthers are. Tell me I'm wrong about that. They don't win more games. They don't play better offense. Frankly, Bryce Young's more advanced than Caleb Williams is today. And whose fault is that? Ultimately, it's Ryan Poles. But really, it's the head coach you didn't fire. And you're going to fire him after the season. Their season is over. And if you learn nothing out of that Washington Hail Mary performance,
it's terrible.
It just is what it is. It is.
And the sad part is this could be so much better too. I'm not saying they were ever going to be like, even if you had the greatest coaching staff in the world, I don't think you're going to be, lose, one and done in the playoffs, essentially. I think it's probably like the top of the mountain you could get out of this roster. But even if like you were competitive, even if it was a thing where you were trying to get that wild card spot, and let's say you felt, you came up short. Let's say you didn't make the playoffs, but you were really competitive. You were playing better football. You were in a game of consequence at the end of the year to try to make wild card weekend. At least then you can say, yeah, this coaching staff's got this team going in the right direction. We need to work on the offensive line through the draft this coming season. And, theoretically we should be better. Vibes are good. Everyone likes coming to work. But that's the issue with bad organizations in the NFL. They do not value the day-to-day enjoyment of the job for players and coaches enough. And when it's going terrible, like, it goes really, really bad. And I don't know why organizations overcomplicate this. Hey, are we headed in the right direction? Is week to week, is there small improvements we can point to that are making a real difference? And the answer is no, there's not at all, ever, even a little bit. So 2 more seasons from now, When we're talking about Caleb Williams being yet another quarterback in the league that got drafted by a garbage organization right now in the Chicago Bears, who wasted his talent. Now he's going to go somewhere else and thrive. Like, how many times? How many times is this going to happen?
And I don't know what you do now, because you're probably like, if you look at the available names, Ben Johnson's probably the best offensive mind. Bobby Slowick, they've taken a step back in Houston.
But admittedly, the game against the Lions was improvement for them this year.
I would hire Bobby Slowick.
Yeah.
I would. That's the guy I would hire. And I would go and get a really veteran offensive mind to back him up. And I would go and get the best of. I would try to hire Bobby Saleh. I would try to go and get an absolute guru on defense who's got leadership, who has again, Robert Saleh is the perfect guy in Chicago as a defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Great defensive guy, has a head coach, been in a big market, been in a high maintenance, difficult media situation. He can guide a guy like Slowick or Ben Johnson through the tough times. That's what I would do if I were the Bears. And I don't think that that's what they will do. I think they will try. I hope they will try that. I can't promise you that, but Brandon Butler, Lincoln Riley to the Bears. I don't know in what scenario, because my guess is I would hire Lincoln Riley as an offensive coordinator. I would hire Lincoln Riley, but then who are you hiring as the head coach? I would hire, because Lincoln Riley makes Heisman Trophy candidates. You want Lincoln Riley to come in and be a consultant and quarterback coach? He's not taking that job.
No.
He's not I don't think he's an NFL guy. You need a quarterback guru. You need the best available offensive mind in the business. That's who you have to hire as the head coach of the Bears. Go evaluate it. I don't know who you think it is.
The problem is they don't, it doesn't seem to me that that's their opinion. You know, like the Bears don't seemingly want to hire the best available offensive minded candidate. You know, they're more looking for, you know, I don't know if they, like, I feel like they're still in the traditional sense. Hey, look at the guy's resume. Where's he been? What's he done? Type deal. And that's typically based on how the NFL has been, defensive-minded guy who has rotted in another organization for 5 years, who doesn't really care about winning. And on a piece of paper, it looks like, oh, well, he did 5 years here and they did that. Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure how you fix the Bears. I'm not sure. Like, I can look at other organizations, can look at the Cowboys and say, okay, here's what we need to do. You know, you can look at, you know, the Jets, here's what we need to do. You know, but like with the Bears, I just don't know that they're willing to do, you know, what has to be done in today's NFL to win.
Ben Johnson's going to have his pick of jobs. That's the real issue. You're not good enough to get Ben Johnson. I don't think. I'm sorry, did we wake you up? I don't think you're good enough to get Ben Johnson, because how many gigs are going to be open? I mean, I've got to think the Rams job will be open. The Raiders job will be open. The Bears job will be open. I would think on some level there's an opportunity in Cleveland, but I doubt that. Dallas job's going to be open. Cowboys and Bears are calling you. Where are you going to work? Probably going to Dallas, even though they have problems with the sun in Dallas. And the owner hates the quarterback. Yeah, let me make myself feel better about the Bears. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry. So you guys saw that the overpriced, terrible in the locker room wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, lost a pass in the sun at Jerry World.
Like wide open. Should have been a touchdown.
Hey, Jerry, what should we do about the sun? Well, Jerry Jones literally told the media, we'll just tear the whole stadium down then. Okay, so you're being UW fan Jim today. Okay, totally understand it. And then Jerry was asked about Dak Prescott. He supported his quarterback, of course, right? Oh, we missed Dak. He's really good. We'll do everything we can do to keep the seat warm for him.
We weren't playing well with Dak at all. I thought that basically we'd look better tonight without Dak. I thought we'd look better on offense than we looked without Dak. Seen Cooper play better than we played tonight. Philadelphia's got a lot to do with that. That's what it is.
I'm sorry. I thought
Bro.
you said you assumed you would look better without Dak Prescott. That your
Bro,
offense,
what are you talking about, man?
your offense was going to be better because Dak Prescott was hurt. Okay. Well, I don't know how that's possible when your best defensive player and probably the best player on your team is calling his head coach hot ass.
Contracts, so outside there's of course going to be questions. What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
Dude.
So,
bro,
first of all, I don't think he said, I don't care where Mike McCarthy goes. I think he meant, well, Mike can go and get another job and win a Super Bowl. Zach Martin cannot go play anywhere and win a Super Bowl. But when you say you don't care about Mike McCarthy,
bro, like,
and you know already that this organization has gone out of its way to protect the sunlight. I just think you have to protect Mike McCarthy all you can. I mean, because the players are struggling with the sun. We got to make sure that Mike McCarthy doesn't struggle with the sun. So in his press conferences, we're going to have a sunshade erected. I mean,
dude.
Screw him on the field. We can't have Mike McCarthy getting an ounce more of vitamin D than he is supposed to have. That's a real picture. So is this one. So is this. They put a sun to block the.
Hey, Jarrah, were you trying to block the sun so that Mike could properly receive the questions? Unlike the way CeeDee Lamb was unable to catch the football. Look at that. And then if you go to the tweet, Jarrah's like, yeah, well, we knew where the sun was like a year ago. We know where the sun would be. Where's the moon? What? What do you mean, Jerry? Like, hey, dude, newsflash. How about, I know. How about you call a curtain company and have a big ass curtain with a little rod put over the window so that on certain
Jerry's
days,
already got a little rod. So
that's right. Yeah. So how about this? Maybe no curtain and rod show. How about we tint the windows? How about we put a film over the windows? How about that?
Well, I think we should go with Jerry Jones' suggestion of, quote, well, let's just tear the damn stadium down and build another one. Are you kidding me? Now,
is this real life, dude?
I also would like to say, who the hell am I to talk? The Bears don't even have a stadium. And B, it's never sunny in Chicago because there's always a rain cloud blocking the sun out in that town when it comes to sports.
I just can't believe in the span of 50 to 60 hours, we had Sungate at AT&T. We had Micah Parsons allegedly not saying, but saying Mike McCarthy could go anywhere. Mike. And then Jarrah, on top of all of that, said that he thought they'd be better offensively without Dak. How do you say that? How does that happen?
See what?
How does that add up, Jarrah?
Jerry, go put more salt on your McGriddle. Kill some skeeters. And let somebody else do the footballing, sir.
Bro.
As bad as I feel for Chicago, and as I sit here and flip through my DMs on Twitter for whatever reason, and look at you hyenas being pissed that I said something bad about Penn State, which I didn't realize there were so many Penn State fans abroad. I think it is remarkable to me that so many people think Jerry Jones is a good owner, and I just don't.
Like, at least in Chicago, you don't expect to be good, right? Like, we're not sitting here like, oh, yeah, we're making the playoffs, man.
Yeah. Midweek Coug. Hello, Midweek Coug. USC should send Lincoln by plane to Chicago. Well, I'd take him as our offensive coordinator every single day. You could send Dirk Cutter. It'd be nice. I'd take that flight too. If Cliffy is coming to the Bears, it would be as a head coach. No, my point is you need somebody like Cliff Kingsbury. He's the example I use because he's the OC in Washington.
Yeah. Look at what they're doing.
That you are employing 20-something-year-old quarterbacks. You need somebody who can talk to them on their level. That's the important thing. And I just struggle with guys like Shane Waldren, who was mediocre in Seattle. So you brought him to Chicago to develop your young stud. And now you elevated a guy who failed to develop a young stud in Carolina. So you think that might work in Chicago? What? Like that's
come on.
That's what I'm saying. Jeremy Bolton, the Chicago Bears are the Jets of the NFL. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Eric in Durham, Shanahan is going to empty the vault to bring Robert Saleh back to San Francisco. I would assume so.
Yeah.
Although there's some talk that he enjoys the Midwest East Coast lifestyle. And he's working with one of his best friends in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Which is disgusting.
And there's no pressure on him.
Bears are stuck in the monsters of the Midway mindset. Always have been, always will be. Want to win with defense. Ronnie Southern, Eric Bieniemy has lost his shine since he left the Chiefs. Well, you never hear about him. Dude that abides, there is some sick twist of fate where one day the Bears will hire Monty's favorite human, Jim Harbaugh. Let's move on. Brandon Butler, I think the Bears is going to be a prime job with Caleb.
Yeah.
You gotta fire Matt Eberflus. And I think Ryan Poles is doing a good job. You cannot keep this offensive line the way that it is. You just can't continue to add on defense because you have a defensive coordinator as a head coach. You can't do it. You've got to invest in the offensive line. You've got to find at least, listen, if you're not going to have 5 guys across the board, everybody, I totally understand that. You have to be dominant one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a tackle guard combo that can hold up, you can send your back out to the other side to chip and catch. The Bears currently don't have the ability to do that because the center guard gap, the A gap, is absolutely a sieve on this team. They have no idea how to diagnose or react to a twist stunt. Like, they're getting schemed out of their jock straps on that offensive line. And meanwhile, your running backs that are no longer on your team are dominating across the NFL. It's frustrating as hell, dude. Jerry hates Dak's guts. It's just crazy. What? Why did you pay him then, Jera? In fact, why did you overpay him? And why did you? I think Jerry Jones is that guy who's like, oh, yeah, we'll just do whatever I want and it'll be fine. Well, you can't wait until the very last moment to pay your quarterback because you wind up paying millions more than you should have. Can't give Washcloth King of America a fully guaranteed deal in Cleveland. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Huge mistake. Midweek Coug. Cowboys are a joke. Fire everyone. Well,
tear the building down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jeremy Bolton. Jerry should hire Mark Harlan as their PR guy.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
That locker room is a hot mess. You love to see it.
Dude.
Nobody is shedding tears.
And then, the other thing about the Parsons thing that I think is hilarious, he goes on his podcast or whatever that night and is like, oh yeah, I never once intended to throw Mike under the bus. Then why are you talking about him? Like,
not once, but twice. This is Micah Parsons not intending, and I think that's a very interesting way of saying it, not intending to throw Mike McCarthy under the bus.
Contracts, so outside there's of course going to be questions. What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
Walking that back, bro.
Put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did.
You're not walking that back, bro.
Rectally, that's tough. Yeah. Jerry Jones is a huge racist, and that's why he kept putting off signing Dak. I don't no idea.
I don't know why we need to.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Jeremy Bolton, Gary Busey, ouch. Okay. Tex Schramm, well, that did not end well for Tex. Is Jerry really just Gary Busey? That could be. Steve Stepanek, good morning. Are you ready to mea culpa on Avery Johnson yet? What about Bob Stoops? He would be a good NFL coach. Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. The Cowboys aren't going to win anything anytime soon with Jerry at the helm. He consistently makes bad choices and doesn't learn from his mistakes. That's why he hired his son, right? I don't know, man. I think, I'm just happy this morning that I didn't try to tackle like Tua Tagovailoa tried to tackle.
Bro. What are we doing?
Before we vacate the premises, that's Tua in the bottom right corner with his head on a shin. Now, I've told you guys this before. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa should ever play another snap in the NFL. But who are we to tell somebody what to do? But I think somebody needs to talk to him about tackling with his head. First of all, I have told you this as well. I don't believe that quarterbacks should even try to tackle anybody. You throw an interception, just lay on the ground and hope for the best. Get out of the way. Don't try to make a play. I understand instincts. I get it. You're a bro. I get it. This is just stupidity right here. This is you. This is all kinds of suicide on many levels. Career suicide, brain suicide, you name it.
Yeah.
You are asking to kill your career and your brain. Why are you trying to make a tackle if you are Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback of the Dolphins, and why are you going low, leading with your head? And listen, I don't know Tua. He does not strike me as a very smart man. That's a linebacker. He's trying to tackle with his head.
Tua, what are you doing, man?
This is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And we just continue to put this guy out there week after week after week. Oh, well, he's got the right. I'm not having him do it on my football team.
Agreed.
If you're going to go tackle guys, you're not going to play quarterback for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not inappropriate to say that, okay, Tua's got the choice to play football. That's his right. Great. But then the organization also has the right to not have him on the team if he's going to do dumb stuff like this. This is like, it's cool when punters do this stuff. Hey, if you're a punter, you want to live that Pat McAfee vibe, you want to go out and try to lay the wood to someone, cool. We can replace punters.
You do you.
Yeah, you do you, bro. We can find someone to kick the football 60, 70 yards. You can't replace,
multi-million-dollar quarterback.
Yeah.
Who they didn't want to pay in the first place because of the concussions. So yeah, let's send him out there to tackle with his flipping brain. This is wild to me. Not as wild as snail tail Houston.
Bro, dude, we got to talk about this, man.
This was Jake's favorite story today. He walked into the studio. It's cold outside. I'm not in the mood because it's raining and sleeting in Salt Lake City. And Jake's like, oh, did you see this guy that shit himself, bro? Oh, wait. Yeah. We got to talk about good old Captain Snail Trail.
Look at that, dude. Look at this dude.
We got to talk about the pooper scooper in Detroit. You want to talk about in the pooper for Cooper? I'm in the pooper for Houston.
Dude. Bro, tell me this isn't exactly what it looks like.
Jake?
Jake. This is exactly what it looks like.
No, it's not.
Now, here's the denial.
He sat on Gatorade. He sat on some Gatorade.
Hold up. So walk me through how you, quote, sat on Gatorade. How does that work, dude? And by the way, if you sat on Gatorade, why is it so isolated to that one area?
Because that's where his butthole is.
Yeah, because he didn't sit on Gatorade, bro.
Hugh Janus.
We just played the exact same drop at the exact same time.
I can't, but so this is, I rolled up to the show today And I was like,
excited to talk about this.
We have to talk NFL today.
Captain Brown Eye over here is like, dude, we're doing this today. We're talking about this. Can we lead with it?
Listen,
screw Mark Harlan.
I want a thumbnail with dude's butthole on the home screen, bro. Look at this. So wait, let me get this right.
I'd rather not look at it.
We have Sungate in Dallas and then Sunshade at Mike McCarthy's press conference. Then we have Jera talking about where's the moon and let's tear the building down. And then we get sat on Gatorade Gate in Houston and Detroit. Like just an incredible.
Okay. Do you guys
week.
think he crapped himself? Do you guys believe that he and I think this is a very salient point right here. Hey, it all depends. See what I did there? See what he did there? That's right. That's right. They, so Gatorade, bad prime, good. Exactly right.
Right?
Exactly right.
Okay, so you're telling me you sat in yellow Gatorade?
Need to unsee. You do. Fingergate, Turderade.
Yeah, Turderade. Exactly, dude.
I don't believe this dude. I think he crapped himself. The very definition of coming out hot. So
there you go. There's your debauchery for today.
The Monty Show is always presented by our friends at The Advocates, theadvocates.com, who remind you to hit the like button on the way out. And if you happen to get into an accident today, seasons are changing, guys. Roads are wet. Roads are getting icy. Make sure that you take precautions. But if you find yourself in an accident, make sure you get to theadvocates.com where you can chat with an injury attorney live online, and it won't cost you a dime because all you get from The Advocates is quality, risk-free legal advice at theadvocates.com. Chat with them 24/7, 365. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.